I want to turn to Israel. The Israeli Prime Minister has responded to Joe Biden's latest call on hoping for peace in the region. Benjamin Netanyahu says Palestinian sovereignty is not compatible with Israel's security needs. Is the two-state solution effectively dead?
Well, Tom, these are deeply disappointing comments. The Australian government supports the aspirations of the Palestinian people for self-determination and ultimately for a state of their own. We need to appreciate that the only way to resolve this conflict is through a negotiated settlement where Israelis and Palestinians can live side by side in security and prosperity within internationally agreed borders. Now, the only way we're going to get there is through a negotiated settlement. Security responses alone will not resolve this conflict. So our position as the Australian government, we've been very clear, along with many other countries around the world, in saying to the government of Israel and to the leadership in Palestine that they need to get back on track for that. That, it might seem difficult at the moment, it might seem a long way away, but it is the only way forward. So we've called out comments, frankly, like these recent comments from Mr. Netanyahu, that undermine these prospects for a long-term negotiated settlement to this ongoing dispute. We've also called out other obstacles to peace, like illegal settlement activity in the West Bank, and we've made it clear that in a post-conflict world, there can't be any reduction in the size of the territory of Gaza, and there can't be any permanent Israeli presence within Gaza. And we call these things out because they are obstacles to that permanent, ongoing, just and enduring resolution of this conflict that we so desperately need now.
When you say presence, the other thing indicated by the Israeli PM is Israel being in charge of security in terms of Gaza, even if that's not within Gaza. Is that something else you'd find unacceptable?
Well, we've been very clear on this, as has the United States government, that there can't be an ongoing presence from Israel in Gaza post-conflict. The status quo before October 7 was serving no one. We need to get to an enduring settlement between the parties where Israelis and Palestinians can live side by side in peace and prosperity. The only way we'll get there is through a negotiated settlement. That's why recent trips to the Middle East by myself and by the Foreign Minister Penny Wong, this is the message that we were delivering to partners and to governments of influence in that region to impress upon both the Israeli government and the Palestinian leadership. Australia is not a decisive voice in this. We're a respected voice, and we use our voice to advocate for that long-term solution to this conflict.
The Australian government has said from the outset that Israel has a right to defend itself, but it also mattered how that was carried out, if you like. It needed to be proportionate. Has Israel gone beyond what is proportionate, in your view?
Well, you're right to say, Tom, we've been clear and consistent since the outbreak of this conflict in saying that Israel has a right to defend itself against the appalling terrorist attacks committed by Hamas on October 7, the appalling sexual violence, the appalling murders, the appalling kidnapping and hostages that are still held in Gaza more than 100 days after those terrible attacks. We've also said that the way Israel exercises this right of self-defence matters, and that while Hamas has flagrantly trashed international law, international humanitarian law, Israel, as a democracy, is held to a higher standard, as all democracies bring onto themselves. So we've made it clear that principles of international law like proportionality, distinction, precaution must be upheld by Israel, and we've called on them to live up to their commitment to live up to and uphold international law. We've seen a harrowing loss of innocent civilian life in Gaza during this conflict, and it needs to stop.
What does that actually mean, though, that it's gone beyond what's proportionate, in your view, and why?
Well, we supported a resolution in the United Nations for a humanitarian ceasefire to preserve civilian life in Gaza. And we think that's an important step towards an enduring ceasefire that can't be one-sided. We've said very clearly that Hamas needs to return hostages, that there needs to be a cessation of rocket fire from Hamas into Israel, that these are essential requirements for any enduring ceasefire between the parties.